Good morning. Welcome to today's webinar, Apartment Brokerage Expert with Daron Campbell. Please note, be sure to register for Daron's next webinar scheduled for Tuesday, September the 1st, Distressed Commercial Property and Repositioning. Also on September the 29th, we have Review Commercial Contracts with Fred Pfister. You can register for both these webinars at nsdcar.com/webinar. And now your speaker for today, Daron Campbell.
Hi, everybody. It's Daron Campbell here. Thanks for that great introduction, Shirley. I am so excited to be here with you guys today. It's always a privilege and an honor to be able to share some information that might help you grow your business. And it's an honor for me. I'm so proud that Shirley has invited me to share, what I know and what my skill set might be that can enhance a facet of your business. And just a little bit of background about me. I am 29 years now in the real estate business. I've been licensed for 29 years. I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be able to have closed just over $4.5 billion worth of transactions. And so it's been a good run. Real estate has been kind to me. The brokerage business has been fantastic for me. And I want to see more people maximize this opportunity. And so the first 15 years of my career, I did strictly commercial real estate, and particularly with a focus on apartment buildings. Now, since that time, I have become more of a hybrid who I broker apartment buildings, I broker other kinds of commercial real estate. I also broker upscale or high-end single-family homes. What I've learned is that license that we all possess is so valuable because you're not limited to the product type to one product type. You're not limited. You can actually sell multiple types of things. Now, many of you will be the reverse of me. I started in commercial and then learned that residential actually went hand in hand with my commercial. And why do I say that? I say that because when you do commercial real estate and you find that your commercial investors or your apartment building investors, in my case, they go out and they buy vacation homes and they buy really high-end residential homes. And I got tired of seeing my investor clients going to buy that $8 million home they want to live in from someone else. And so I decided, wait a minute, I want to be their realtor for all reasons. And that's the way I think you ought to govern yourself and your real estate practice. You want to be your client's trusted real estate consultant for all reasons, not just for their single family purposes. And so what we want to help you do in this series is be able to incorporate commercial with your residential practice. And apartment buildings, which is our topic today, is really the easiest transition or the easiest overlay to incorporate with your residential business. So it's a good time to do it, by the way. But if really at the core of it, given what's going on in the world today and the way the economy is going and the way the real estate market is trending, I actually think you should be able to add $75,000 to $200,000 in income by incorporating a facet of commercial into your residential business. And the way I think you should start is with apartments. You sell somebody a really nice house, wherever. I know there's a lot of nice neighborhoods in the San Diego area. Those upscale buyers also like to invest. You might even be shocked at how much they invest without you. A lot of your upscale homeowners and home buyers, invest in commercial property or income producing property, and you might not even know about it. And what I would suggest is that you become a competent enough expert so that you can become their realtor for all reasons. So my clients are I tend to encourage all of my clients to come to me for anything real estate, anything. And that's whether they want to buy their next, their home, their vacation home, whether they want to move their business to a new warehouse. I want to be the person who finds that warehouse and sells it to them or leases it to them. When they want to create some passive income, I want to be their apartment broker. So for all reasons, the way you can truly round out your practice is to be able to be the full real estate consultant for your clients for all reasons. And so as a result of that, that's why Shirley's invited me to share some commercial concepts and some commercial real estate education with you so that you can, because you're already licensed to do it, so that you can incorporate these concepts into your practice. And that's what we're going to dive into today. I got a lot to cover, and so I'm gonna jump right in, and and of course we'll make this. I believe Shirley's gonna make this presentation available to you later, but also I'm gonna give you my information. You can reach out and ask me further questions. But the idea is to get you into a knowledgeable place so that you can add to your practice. Okay, I'm gonna start sharing my screen, and we're going to go here. And so this is a series that I teach and taught called Apartment Millionaire. And it's part of it, what it is what I've taught investors or potential investors about the advantages of apartments. And I've tailored it to teach you about the brokerage of apartments so that you can become just more informed about the concepts and how apartments work, and then really how the opportunity of apartments is really tremendous, a lot bigger than a lot of people think. And so you're getting an excerpt of my seminar called Apartment Millionaire. So that's what you're getting today. And I'm going to put this in. I need to put this in slideshow mode, which I always forget to do. Let me see if that works. Boom, there you go. That's the view I wanted you to have. So just as a matter of record, just kind of just give you a breakdown of who I am and what I've done. I'm managing partner of a firm called Society Real Estate and Development, and that's a firm in Beverly Hills. It's a new firm. We founded this company, and the idea is we service a lot of high net worth individuals, athletes, entertainers, celebrities. And the funny thing about them is they buy really high-end homes in many cases. Then they come right back and say, well, now I want to invest. How do I invest? What's the smart thing for me to invest in? And so that's kind of where I come in. I'm the chief investment officer and managing partner of this firm. And like, for instance, I did a Zoom call with a couple of hundred, well, about just over 120 NFL players recently. And you'd be surprised at how many of them really would like to learn and invest, but just kind of don't know how. You just kind of don't know how it operates or works. Okay, so we do in excess of $2 billion. Actually, that's kind of the number that I did with my last firm, and this brand new firm should exceed that number. I'm president of a company called Apartment Sales Group, Inc., and I had the distinction of being the #1 all-time seller of apartment buildings at RE/MAX. And then my personal closings is over $4 billion. And this is my 29th year. And my investment division or investment company that buys apartment buildings is called Daron Campbell Capital. So that's just a little bit about me. But let's just dive in and talk about apartments. Apartments make so much sense because, and the reason I got into apartments and I'm so excited about apartments is because housing is the most fundamental thing in the real estate space, right? Housing is the thing that's consistent to everyone. We all need it. We all have to have it. It's kind of why I chose to broker apartment buildings way back 29 years ago. I go, I want to deal in something that where the need is tremendous, and it doesn't get any more tremendous than the basic idea of housing. So the other concept there was, there were many facets of commercial real estate that I could have chosen, but you'll see in this upcoming economy and in recent ones, the need for those types of assets changes year over year. There was once a period of time here in Los Angeles, where in the industrial buildings that we had here were 35–40% vacant. There was a big period of time when that market was just kind of stagnant, and then it came roaring back, and now there's crazy demand. And then so assets like that, they come and they go, or they get excited or hot, and then they cool off. Well, housing never cools off. There's always a pent-up demand. There's always a need for it, and everybody has to have it. So I said, I'm going into apartments. And what does that mean to the investor or the potential investor? Number one, apartments provide the opportunity for cash flow. So now when your client wants to figure out a way to grow their money, enhance their net worth, apartment buildings give them the opportunity to create cash flow. And you can be the person who teaches them how to generate some cash flow in their life. The appreciation of apartments in particular is something that has tended to be consistent over years. I'll tell you a little bit later on how there are little gaps in the appreciation cycle that give you an opportunity to jump in and take advantage and even accelerate your appreciation, but they consistently appreciate. Over time, almost never go backwards, right? Then there's the added benefit of depreciation. When you own an apartment building, you get to depreciate the improvements of the apartment building. So it's kind of this interesting dichotomy. The apartment building appreciates over time, and there's actually methods for depreciating the improvements, meaning the things that are in the apartment building. And that gives you tax advantages. As a matter of fact, it has recently become much more advantageous to own an apartment building from a tax standpoint than your home, because of the way deductions have been eliminated from the personal side. But on the business side, you get to write a lot of things off of your apartment building. And your clients will appreciate that. You get to show them how to save money from a tax standpoint. And then there's the principal reduction. As you pay that mortgage, you're reducing principal. And the great thing about that is, if you buy the apartments the right way, it's your tenants that are paying the mortgage and essentially reducing the principal. And so over time, your building's getting paid for by someone else. And when you break that down and show somebody in a really basic way how that happens, if they light up and they go, oh my goodness, I never even thought about it like that. And so apartment buildings really offer some financial advantages that a lot of people don't understand. And I want to equip you to understand and be able to explain. So let me give you an example of why apartment demand over time is something that you should help your clients take advantage of. In Los Angeles recently, they had a mayoral summit and declared a housing state of emergency in the city. And I actually know that same phenomenon exists in San Diego, and it also exists in the Bay Area. But this mayoral summit declared that there's a state of emergency in the housing market because there's simply not enough. And they didn't even qualify that by saying not enough affordable or not enough of a certain type, just not enough across the board. We have too many people for the number of accessible, usable housing units in the city. So what does that do? You know what that does? That creates a greater demand on the existing units. When you have a greater demand, they become more valuable, right? And so over time, apartment buildings' values have soared, and so landlords, people who've owned apartment buildings, have become increasingly wealthy by doing it. So when you explain to somebody how your city, your town, your area has not enough housing to accommodate its number of residences, then you can easily show them how the demand outstrips the supply, thus the value of the supply has to go up. It's a great wealth building tool. And the reason apartment buildings make so much sense is because home ownership is too expensive for most people. Therefore, most people are rendered or relegated to renting. Now, I use LA as the example because it's actually where I live. I know you guys are primarily San Diego County, but the numbers are very similar. I'll show you why. So right here in LA County, the median income is $69,150. The median home price is $639,900. What does that mean? It means that the average person can't buy the average house. Wow. I happen to know, as a matter of fact, I'm having somebody pull the San Diego numbers for me, and I'll show you what it is in San Diego County. But there also happens to be a shortage of 500,000. Look at that, it's almost 600,000. Well, it's 516,000 units short. That means we don't have enough units to accommodate the number of people that live here. Okay, and so the census reports that we have 10.04 million residents in this county alone, and the net result is there's way too many people and not nearly enough housing. And I'm gonna send Shirley the San Diego numbers. I have my team like pulling the very same set of numbers for you guys down there. But the main point is there's a shortage. And so what happens is when someone owns an apartment building, particularly in Southern California, they get a unit, they put that unit up for rent, and they get inundated with applications because there's a shortage. So the beautiful thing is every time I put an apartment unit up for rent, we get somewhere between 7 and 10 applications within 1 week. Pretty amazing. And so that's what creates the opportunity for the income to be strong and the cash flow to be consistent. And I'm going to show you why and how that cash flow happens and how you can position yourself to be a knowledgeable agent and teach your clients why they ought to be buying apartments from you, and then why you should be making an additional $100,000 to $200,000 a year selling apartment buildings to your existing clients. It's really a cool thing. I typically take residential agents and I say, okay, you made $200,000 typically a year. Now, what if we went back to the 50 clients you've serviced over the last 2 years, and we went and offered them all the opportunity to learn how to invest in apartments through you? And what if you took this knowledge that I'm telling you about apartments, went to everybody that you sold a home to over the last 2 years and say, hey, I'm also offering the opportunity for you to learn how to invest in apartments. Would you be interested if I were offering that? And you'll be shocked at how many people go, oh my God, yeah, you'll teach me that, you'll show me that. You know, a lot of people don't invest in apartments because they simply don't know how. They know they should. They know it's a great investment. They know that income producing property makes sense. They know that cash flow is the greatest concept ever, but many times they just don't have the knowledge to jump in, right? So you need to have that knowledge. I'm hoping to try to give you that knowledge so that they'll come back to you and say, okay, thanks for selling me that beautiful home. Now sell me an apartment building. And by the way, you guys will love the commissions on apartments because, you know, my kind of specialty, my area of expertise is 20 to 50 units. It's kind of like my niche. And that means those buildings are typically $4 million to $10 million. And those commissions are very, very handsome, you guys. You really would, you enjoy those paychecks because apartment buildings of that size, the commissions are still typically between 3 and 5%. So do the math. Think about those paydays. So why apartments? It's because cash flow. The main thing is they create cash flow. They create income for your investor. And I'm going to show you why they create this cash flow. It's because you get economies of scale. So for instance, I have a bunch of clients who bought rental houses. I have a real good friend who had 7 rental houses. 7. Very accomplished guy. He happens to be a real estate agent. So he bought houses because that's what he knew, right? He owned 7 rental houses. I said, Matt, you got 7 rental houses and your equity in those houses, I think at the time, the equity he had in those houses was about, I'm gonna say $1 million or so. $1.2 million, I don't know exactly, something like that. And then I said, okay, let me show you something. If I can show you a way to really escalate your monthly income. Because he had these 7 houses, and I think he was bringing home, I want to say he was bringing home somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,500 to $4,000 a month net, because they were all rented out. They were in good shape. They were in good areas. He's making about $3,500 take home. I said, if I can show you how to take that same 1.2 million in equity and put it somewhere else to make a lot more cash flow. Would you be interested? He goes, yeah, show me. So I went and got an apartment building example. And I showed him that if he had that same 1.2 million in equity and he put it into this particular apartment building, he could buy that apartment building. And I showed him how the cash flow at the end of the month that's put in his pocket was over $10,000. He was like, whoa, what? That doesn't make any sense. He was able to, so basically at the end of the day, we sold all the houses and we put them in some apartment buildings. And he went on to buy 2, 3, 4. I think he ended up with 5 apartment buildings, still owns them to this day. And is just making so much more cash flow than if he had a single family rental portfolio. Now, why is that? Because in that 44 unit apartment building, he's got 44 rentals, let's call it, right? Because they're all units. They're under one roof. So how many roofs does he have to maintain? 1 instead of 7. He's got 1 gardener. He doesn't have to pay a gardener 7 times. He's got 1 manager. That manager manages all 44 of those units. There's things like this that give you economies of scale in apartments that you just don't get when you have a house rental portfolio. And the cash flow just really starts to multiply. And so what you'll see over time is that apartment investing dwarfs single family house investing. And I know you have a lot of you have clients who have a rental house or 2 or 5 that they consider investments. But a lot of times you can show them how they can take that same equity and put it into an apartment building and double or triple their cash flow. That's what I did for Matt, and he thanks me till this day. That was 6, 7 years ago. Now, why do apartments make a lot of sense? Well, because there's low volatility. Apartment renters tend to be long-term renters. You don't get a lot of people, particularly in Southern California, you don't get a lot of people who are currently renting and then they jump out and go buy a house. I just showed you that the median home price is over $600,000. Well, the person renting the apartment 85, 90% of the time stays multiple years in the same place. So you get that stability of income from long-term renters, right? And then they're less likely to have, that $360,000 number is an example I used because it was the price of a condo that was the equivalent of an apartment unit that I was showing somebody an example of. The $360,000 is what it was going to take to buy the equivalent condo of a unit that they were renting. But the rub was people have a lot of trouble saving money, and so the down payment that they needed to acquire the equivalent, it takes them years to figure out how to do. So they stay. Your tenants then tend to stay longer as renters, and therefore the landlord, whoever owns that building, gets the long-term effect of tenants who just don't move. Now, the other thing we do on a regular basis, and I encourage people to do, is you can add value to apartments. And here's the funny thing. In single family, we have to hope that a market gets better or we have to do really deliberate things to a home to ensure that we're adding value. But the beautiful thing about apartments is that you can add value in predictable, absolute ways. And I'm going to show you how that happens here in a minute. So what do? We buy properties that have low rents. Now, you might say, there's no properties out there with really low rents. Well, the fact of the matter is, a lot of people who own apartment buildings don't raise their rents when the market rents go up. A lot of owners really just want to keep a building fully occupied. So if Mrs. Johnson is paying $1,300 for her apartment, but the landlord could be getting $1,500 because that's what the market dictates, many times he won't raise her rent, even the amount that he's allowed to raise her rent, even in a rent control environment. And why? Why doesn't he do that? You'd be surprised at how many people don't raise their rents. And the reason is he doesn't want her to move out. He wants stability of income. And that's great. That's fine for him. And I like the idea of stability. But if his rents stay low, I've bought apartment buildings where the owner hadn't raised the rent in 5 or 6 years because he just likes it. Hey, he's just like, I like a quiet, stable building where nobody moves, so I don't raise rents. I'm doing fine. I don't need to raise my rents. I know you don't believe that that's true, but you'd be shocked at how many owners don't raise rents. Now, why does that create an advantage for me as a buyer, your buyer? Is because the properties are priced based on the rents that they obtain. And so if somebody hasn't raised their rents in 3 or 4 years and then they end up wanting to sell that building, I get to buy that building based on those rents that he's currently getting when I know that the market rents are here. And apartment buildings are valued based on the income. Does that make sense? So you buy properties with low rent. And then as you increase those rents, you increase the cash flow. So if I started out making, as a matter of fact, Matt, that example I told you about the guy who sold the rental houses, he said when he started out, the first building was making right around $10,000 a month in cash flow. And over the next year, he systematically moved the rents to where the market ought to be. And he got his monthly income up to $12,000 just by increasing the rents to where the market dictated they should be. It's pretty amazing. And it's very, it's very predictable. We knew we could increase those. We knew we could increase those rents before we bought the building. But we bought the building based on the lower rents. Does that make sense to you? So that's you buy low, you move the rents, you increase the cash flow, and then while you increase the cash flow, you put more money in your pocket, but you're also increasing the value of the building. Pretty amazing, pretty amazing. So let me show you. Okay, so why right now? Why is this an advantageous time to do this, to buy apartments and put your people in them? It is because we're in the midst of the largest transference of wealth in the history of mankind. Our current economy, the slight recession that we are in right now is causing a major shift. It's a great time for you to add apartments to your arsenal of things to be able to do, because things are changing in a big, big way. Now, you guys know COVID-19 has happened to all of us, but let's look at what it really has done. It has shifted. It is taken away, at least for the time being, 43 million jobs. It is estimated that 20 million of those jobs won't come back. Okay? Then we got social issues that are plaguing the nation, right? And then we're in the midst of an election year. And so all of these things send a ripple effect through certain sectors of the economy. What's going to happen when 43 million jobs go away and half of them don't come back? Well, there are going to be people who can't pay certain rents. There are going to be people who want to move to different places. There are going to be shifts in the landscape. So what does that mean? That means there's going to be some volatility. And volatility is the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. The most exciting thing in the real estate business for us as agents is volatility. I personally don't care if a market goes up or goes down, as long as it's moving in one direction or the other. That's where your opportunity to make money really lives. If our economy and everything is just completely status quo and flat, the opportunity to make money is limited. But if it's moving, that means if it moves up and people are building equity and they want to take advantage of that equity, then they sell and then they exchange into something else. If it's going down, then people get to buy things at a discount. And so right now, the perfect storm that we're in right now is causing shifts to happen, and taking advantage of the shift is a really, really important story to be able to tell your clients, okay? When we go into a recession, which we are in right now, believe it or not, I know home sales are strong, etc. 43 million jobs have disappeared. Half of them won't come back. 24 million people did not pay their rent or their mortgage on August 1st. And what is going to be the ripple effect of that? You don't see it today because it hasn't manifested yet. But there's going to be a ripple effect over the next 90 to 120 to 180 days that is going to affect the tide and the value of some properties. But more importantly, it's going to inspire a lot of people to want to sell, to want to reposition, to want to move equity from one place to another. And it's going to cost certain things to get advantageous for people to buy. So there are going to be areas of the country, areas of your town, your city, the state that that shift in value because of the shift in the world, because of the shift in our economy. That's when your opportunity to pounce and help your investors buy things that make sense is presented to you. It's right here, it's right now. What's a good example? A good example is there is a concentrated shift from people that currently live in dense areas who want to move out to less dense areas, more suburban-like settings. And so what that is going to do is that's going to put downward pressure on some of the urban, more crowded areas. What does that do? That makes those sellers' values pull back a little bit. That makes some vacancies go up a little bit. And then that makes the value of that building come down, and you can take advantage of it. You see, most recessions, this is important for you to know, we've had 47 recessions since the founding of this nation. 47. The average recession lasts less than 2 years. But the recession creates an opportunity for prices to pull back a little bit, and that's absolutely the best time for people to invest in income-producing property because it goes on sale. And we're in the middle of a situation where these properties are going to go on sale, and you could help your clients grow tremendous wealth during these periods. So, for instance, we had a recession early in my career that went from 1992 to 1996. Well, guess what? Apartment buildings came down in value just briefly, but it was the best time in that decade to buy apartment buildings. And then when that recession ended, the value soared literally by over 100% within the next few years. The other thing is we had another recession in 2007. 2007, 2008, about just under 2 years, a slight pullback in values happened, and everybody that went discount shopping for income-producing property was so glad that they did because the values came soaring back, and here we are 12 years later, and everything that you could have bought in 07 and 08, in most cases, is worth between double and triple what it costed just 12 years ago. And here we go again. We are starting a recession, and you might not see the recession because you see all of these sales going on and the economy is still feeling good to you and the stock market is still soaring. But there's a sub-market that's going on that you might not see every day, and it is called defaults, and it is called people it's called shadow inventory that is going to either be in default or be in some form of distress because people haven't paid rent, people can't pay rent, people are not going to be able to pay rent, and going forward, you're going to see a slight pullback, and that growth that for 12 years has gone straight up is going to pause. It's pausing already. Great time for people to invest, and that's where the real wealth is built during those 2-year recessions, and we are in one now. So values are changing. It's important for you to understand that values are changing, and that includes apartment buildings. The shifts. You look at carefully look at the shifts. This thing called gentrification that's happening in major cities. Like it or not, or think it's a good thing or not, it's happening. Every major city is now every major city in the U.S. There are certain areas where people are moving back from the outskirts because they want to be closer to the downtowns or the centralized jobs or the areas of commerce. So if you really study markets, you'll see there's some areas where people are pushing away and distancing, and there's some areas that are gentrifying because people want to be much closer because of traffic patterns, because of ease of commute, et cetera, because of the new way we do business. Values are changing. If you focus on particular markets, you'll see exactly how those markets are changing and how those values are changing, and you can help your clients take advantage. So this recession that we're in right now is presenting you with a short window of opportunity to get your clients in the game. You could be a hero. If you help your clients get into some apartment buildings or some income producing property and you help them buy it at what is going to later be seen as a big discount, you could be their favorite person. You could be the person that helps them create wealth in a way they never thought they could. I have clients that thank me here today. They thank me 10, 12, 15 years later. I just met with a client yesterday at a property, and I have known him and have been helping his family invest for over 25 years. I've sold them 57 apartment buildings, and they have generational wealth now and six-figure a month cash flow that has changed their families' lives for generations. And they thank me for it because I helped them aggressively buy every time there was a slight flattening of the market. And we are in that now. What you're going to see over the next 6 months, 12 months, maybe even 18 months, you're going to start seeing some foreclosures in apartment buildings. Hard to believe, right? It's going to happen. You're going to find that there are going to be motivated sellers, private sellers who really need to sell because of the way things have changed, or people who say, okay, it's been a great 12-year run. I think this party is over for a little while. Get me out. It's time to sell. You know, you buy low, you sell high. Well, we're right at that point where we could still sell high before this thing dips back. And a lot of people don't want to give back any of that money. They don't want to give back that equity. They don't want to give back what they gained over the last 12 years. So you're going to see foreclosures. So banks are going to start selling properties. Insurance companies are going to start selling properties because they will have taken them back in foreclosure. And then you're going to have motivated private sellers because values are going to flatten out and they're going to go, all right, get me out. It's time. Let's get out of here. Or let's trade to a better area now that we've made so much money in this average area. Opportunities are about to come your way, and apartments are going to really, really help boost your income and your ability to earn for you and your family. Here's what else is happening. What a lot of people don't know is commercial loans, apartment loans, commercial loans in general for all of the product types tend to be 30-year loans with a 5 or 7 year due date. Unlike single family loans that are 30 years fully amortized, commercial loans have call dates that are much sooner than 30 years. So while that loan might be amortized over 30 years, it's actually due in the 5th year or the 7th year to be paid off. Well, think about that. If over the past 12 years, tons of commercial loans have been issued, like hundreds of thousands of apartment loans have been issued over the last 12 years. Well, guess what's about to happen? Those loans that are due in the 5th or the 7th or the 10th year are all coming due, and that's going to be a pivot point for many of those sellers. So many of those sellers whose loans are coming due are going to say, hey, Daron, let's sell right now because I don't want to refinance, or I don't want to pay any points, or the value has come down a little bit, so I don't know how much I can actually refi. All of that is about to happen. So when these loans reset, that's a window of opportunity for people many of those people won't refinance that $1 trillion that's coming due. They're going to just say, let's sell. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity for you to put your people into a commercial property, an apartment building in particular. But what does it also mean for you? It's a great opportunity for you to start canvassing apartment owners and asking them when are they planning to sell. You can list apartments for sale because there's a lot of people that are going to have a lot of incentive to do it. And what you'll find is that most of the apartment owners in this country, much less Southern California, are baby boomers. And because the baby boomer generation really believed and still believes that real estate is the best vehicle for them to build wealth and grow wealth and preserve wealth. Well, guess what? The baby boomers are getting up there in age. And in many, many cases, their kids don't want the apartment building. I can't tell you how many clients I have sold apartments for, and the kids didn't want to reinvest the money, or the kids didn't want to continue running the apartment buildings. They thought that was mom and dad's way to do what they needed to do. We don't want to be bothered. I have bought many of those buildings from those people. I was just telling my client, that my best client ever that I met with yesterday, I was just talking to him. He says, remember those 3 buildings we bought from those 3 kids? They were in their 40s and 50s. Those 3 kids that inherited those buildings, they were like, yeah, we don't want these buildings. That was dad's project. Sell those buildings and give us the cash. And I sold those 3 buildings to my best client. But the point is, I see that over and over again, and it's a real phenomenon. So opportunity is coming. Now, what happens when we find all these motivated sellers? You get the opportunity to take advantage of the motivation. And how do you do that? Many times, many times. Because of the income of the property, you can get a low down payment. I personally purchased buildings with 0 down because the seller was willing to carry the paper because he wanted to get out. And the price that I got with the 0 down payment, with the seller carrying 100% of the purchase price, I still cash flowed over $2,000 a month on that first building. So it's rare to get a 0 down deal, but it actually exists. If the seller's motivated enough, you can get a creative deal going that'll blow your mind. You get discounted prices because of what's about to happen. But it's only going to be a short window, guys. Remember this. But it's a great way for you to get a foothold established in the commercial game. It's a good way for you to take advantage and educate your clients about the commercial side of things. And by the time this little window, this little discounted window of opportunity is over, you could be a very seasoned, trusted commercial income property agent. I encourage you to do that. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of apartments. The nuts and bolts of apartments are really about how you value an apartment building. And so how do I know what a good deal is? How do I gauge? Well, let me tell you some of the factors. So the buildings are the sale prices and the sales values of apartment buildings are largely based on the income of the building. So you got the gross income of the building, which is all of the potential collected rent, meaning all of the rent monthly times 12. That's your gross income. It's basically your scheduled gross income. But then you reduce that income by the expenses and by the vacancy factor, and that gives you the net income. And the net income, or net operating income, as you'll learn a little bit more about later, as it's referred to, is a barometer. It's a factor in the way people decide whether to buy a property or not, or whether a property is a good deal or not. We're going to talk specifically about that in a few minutes. And then there's a cap rate. Cap rate stands for capitalization rate. And that is, that's another barometer that investors use to determine, it's your way to compare apples with apples. A building in one neighborhood is a certain cap rate, and I go to another building in another neighborhood, and if I can find out what that cap rate is, then I can decide, what excites me more about the two buildings. You could have, so investors, one of the first things they ask their broker when they get introduced to a property is, okay, what's the cap rate? What's the current cap rate? That's the capitalization rate. And to make that, to tell you that in the most simple fashion, to describe that in the most simple fashion is the cap rate is the actual return, the actual percentage return that an investor gets if he were to just buy that building outright for cash. So if the building's $3 million and the investor just paid $3 million, the cap rate is the percentage return he would get on that $3 million. Now, many times, that's not really the return he gets because he doesn't pay all cash. He gets financing or whatever, and that changes his return in his pocket. But if he didn't just bought it outright, the cap rate would be the yield, the return that he got on his money, on the existing situation. All right, that's important for you to know, because big investors, they want to know the cap rate right off. What's the cap? And that's kind of gives them a gauge of where this property, how this property was valued. Okay, GRM, that is the gross rent multiplier. Apartment buildings are valued using the gross rent multiplier all the time. So cap rate and gross rent multiplier are your two most consistent barometers that people use when trying to evaluate what they're looking at in an apartment building. So the gross rent multiplier is a factor that is calculated by using the sale price, or the asking price, divided by the gross income. That top line in gross income, that's the full potential rent of a place. Price divided by that number gives you the gross rent multiplier. So that number could be on a really low price property, or an 8 or a 9 or a 10 times gross. The GRM, we say, if the GRM is 10, we say 10 times gross. That means all of the gross income times 10 is the price they're asking for this building. And we see grocery multipliers as high as 22, 23 in this last 12-year run-up. I've seen 23, 24 times gross. And back in the last recession, I've seen 4 and 5 times gross. So, and in the 90s, in the 1992 to 96 recession, I sold some apartment buildings at 2.5 times gross. 2.5 times the annual potential income. I mean, that's an unprecedented time that everybody should have been buying as much as they could get their hands on back then. Even myself, I regret not buying more. But you see what the swing is like. This last couple of years, we've sold apartment buildings over 20 times gross. And back during the recessions, we've seen them as low as 2 times gross. Wow, that's mind-boggling if you really think about it. If you really think about it, it's mind-boggling. Okay, so that's how value is evaluated. Now let's just show you how that value comes to life, how it really occurs. This is something called a cash flow analyzer. So this tells you, this breaks down the building and its value and how that value is derived. Okay, so when you take the potential rental income, you look at the bottom half of this page, the potential rental income is $72,000, right? And so when that $72,000 is important for you to know. Let's see if I can circle it. If you can see my arrow, I'm circling that $72,000. That is the potential. That's the full potential rental income that property could possibly achieve, right? And so you take that potential rental income and you subtract a vacancy factor, the potential vacancy, and the potential losses, credit losses, and that's when people aren't able to pay their rent or you have to do an eviction or something like that. And that leaves you with an effective rental income. Now, in most areas, you can figure out what the vacancy factor is. In most cases, in Southern California, the vacancy is around 3 to 5%. Usually not a lot more than that, but you can go to some other parts of the country where the vacancy factor might be 7 or 8%. When I first got into the real estate business here in Los Angeles, we would use a 10% vacancy factor. And that was just because, rents, people were moved around a little bit more, there was a little bit more vacancy. More often than not, it's because units stayed vacant a little longer. It wasn't because there's way too many apartments. It's usually not the case. It's about the particular period of time that you lose rental potential because of unit is vacant. Well, since that time, people have gotten really efficient at getting a unit rent ready and getting it leased out in short order. We can take a vacant unit and have that unit ready for rental in 48 hours, and we can have 6 applications waiting to have one accepted, and then we could lose as little as a week of rent when we get a vacancy. But that's what vacancy is all about. The vacancy factor is a percentage. It's never zero because somebody's gonna move and there's a vacancy for at least a period of time until you get it re-rented. So if somebody tries to tell you that the vacancy factor is 0 because a building is full, that's not correct. It's not true, because at some point people do move. At some point people shift. At some point somebody can't pay. Look, we're seeing right now a situation where over 20 million people aren't paying their rent, and so their rent or their mortgage. That was mortgages and rents together. So vacancy factor is a real thing, but you don't want to be worried about it or afraid about it, because in the real world, there are plenty of people who can pay the rent. This pandemic is an anomaly, and so right now it's the reason we're seeing some good pricing. So potential rental income minus vacancy leaves you with the effective rental income. Then you add in the other income. What's other income? If that unit has a laundry room that collects money for laundry. If there's parking income, those are the things that can add to the rental income to give you the gross operating income. Add it all together, that's your gross operating income. Then you subtract the operating expenses from that gross operating income. What are operating expenses? It's the things you would imagine. It is the maintenance and repairs of the unit. It is the manager, whatever you're crediting him or paying him or her. It is the utilities. It is the property taxes. Those are the expenses that you factor in and reduce the income by. You subtract that from the gross operating income, and that leaves you with the net operating income, the NOI, net operating income. That's an important term for you to know. So we got potential rental income, and then take away the vacancy, and there's the effective rental income. You add back in other income. We got the gross operating income. Take away the expenses, and it leaves you with the NOI, net operating income. Okay, I know I went fast on that, but there's a lot to cover, so I'm trying to get it all in for you. But important to know what the NOI is. So that gross income minus the expenses is the NOI. That NOI divided by the purchase price will give you the cap rate. Okay, so it's important. Those are the three factors. You can go in either order to figure out what the third factor is. So if you have the NOI and you know what the asking price is, you can divide one into the other and it'll tell you the cap rate. If you know the NOI and you know what cap rate your client wants to achieve, you divide the cap rate into the NOI and you receive what that value would be. So this is a formula. This is important. You guys should take notes on this one, because your client might come to you and say, I don't want to buy anything that's lower than a 6 cap. That means a 6 cap is kind of reflects the kind of return they want to make at a bare minimum. Someone might say to you, hey, here's I got some information on a building that someone will sell, but they want you to make us an offer. Well, if they can just give you the rental information so that you can conclude what the NOI is, then you can divide it by that 6 cap rate that your client wants to achieve. Then that'll tell you what kind of price you can offer on behalf of that client. Does that make sense? But the beautiful thing to know about this, and I know that might not be the easiest concept to absorb, but the beautiful thing is you can become exact and have an exact science behind a price, or why you came up with an offer of a certain sort, or how you value a property. If you can find out quickly that apartment buildings in La Jolla are selling at a 4.5 cap, let's say, then you can go to any seller, you can meet with any seller and look at his rental information and look at his expenses and come up with the value, because 4.5 is the going cap rate in that area. Does that make sense? So I'm showing you how you can price apartment buildings you can either price them for a seller or come up with a price for a buyer. Okay, now let's talk about the gross rent multiplier. The gross rent multiplier is the purchase price divided by the gross rental income. Okay, so that gross rental income is that number, that first number we started with, all of the potential rental income, and you divide the purchase price by that number, and that'll give you the GRM, the gross rent multiplier. And then secondarily, if you go here to letter B, the gross rental income times a gross rent multiplier equals the price. So again, I'm giving you the ammunition for you to go in either direction to arrive at a value or a multiplier. If you have a client that says, I want to buy a property, but I don't pay more than 11 times gross, then you can go look at someone's apartment building for sale, and their rental income is $100,000 a year. Well, that your client doesn't want to pay more than 11 times that or 10 times that, whatever they told you they want to pay or not. So easy to conclude or get to a number for someone if you know what those factors are. Either the income, or the price, or the multiplier. One of those three, you can derive the third of those three as long as you got the other two. And I'm telling you this because anybody who's savvy with apartments is going to talk to you in this language. So a potential seller that you run across that says, hey, I got a building and I would sell it if you can, bring me my price. And you say, okay, well, what are you thinking? And he says to you, okay, I want 15 times gross. You say, okay, well, send me your rent roll and your rental. The rent roll is the roster of rents and your expenses, and then I can go show my client, how we arrived at that price. Okay, so that's the quick pricing education, because if you're gonna work in apartments at all, you're gonna have to know what gross rent multipliers are. You're gonna have to know what capitalization rates are. You're gonna have to know what a net operating income is. So I'm gonna show you some more, but it's important for you to know what you're looking at when you're looking at it. So I brought you up a simple page that is kind of the way the MLS shows multifamily listings. And it's a very unsophisticated way, but you can go on your local MLS, and when they do have apartments on there, they kind of show up like this. There's a much more sophisticated way to do an offering memorandum and formally present an apartment opportunity. But this is what you're going to see when you go on the typical MLS. And what you're looking at is a schedule, scheduled income. So somebody here didn't put the scheduled gross or the things, that they went ahead and just dropped down to the gross operating income. So they had whatever these numbers were, they didn't show us. They just got to the gross operating income. And then they show us what the NOI is. There's the net operating income. So the expenses that were taken out from this number, the 108, drops you down to the 81. So now you have a net operating income. And if you go across the way, the gross multiplier, which is really the gross rent multiplier, is 12.25. What does that mean? That means that the price of this building is 12.25 times that income number. What's the cap rate? There it is, 6.32. That means if somebody just wrote a check, bought this building outright, they make 6.12, I'm sorry. They make 6.12% annually on their money. And that's after expenses, by the way. So that would be their net, right? And so those are the important numbers to know when you see that. And then below, further down, you'll see the type of unit, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. This building is all 1 bedroom, primarily 1 bedroom, 1 bath. And I think actually that there's a typo there. But 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and it shows you what the actual rent is today. So this unfurnished unit, it's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. It rents for $1,100, but the pro forma rent means that it could be rented for $1,295. Now that's important because when you buy an apartment building, I think I told you earlier that if you buy something at the rent the person is currently getting, you're buying it based on that. And in most cases, if you got the rents to that higher number, you just reposition the value of that building. Let me show you how. Look at this. This is the example that we were just looking at. This is the building I just showed you. The total actual rent in that building is $12,905 a month. The annual rent then is $154,860. So the current value of that building at 12.63 GRM is $1,955,881. Now, so that's what it is today. That's what it is currently. But then when you look back at that pro forma rent, which is what the rents could be, and that's absolute information, because those numbers are surveyed. That's an indication of what other buildings with the same kinds of units in the same area are currently achieving. But again, I told you how many landlords don't raise their rents because they don't want anybody to ever move out. Well, that's your opportunity, your client's opportunity to buy a building for less than it could be sold for. Let me show you how that value is increased. The rent that could be $15,180 instead of $12,905 results in an annual rent of $182,000 instead of this $154,000 that you see up above. And therefore, the building is still worth 12.63 times the annual income. But you just you just over the course of a year or maybe even two, you raise the rent from that 154,000 to 182,000. The building is still worth 12.63 times the gross. So now the value of the building is $2,380,680,000. $2,300,680. Does that make sense? You've increased the value of that building by almost $400,000, and all you did was move the rents to the market. That doesn't, you didn't have to completely, in many cases, didn't have to completely renovate the building. You didn't have to do a whole lot except for get that building to market rent. You see how it's incredible to increase value and kind of create value, add value, invent value. Apartment buildings are so exciting because that is how they work. And you can show your clients how to do this. And I'm telling you, you will be their absolute hero when you show them how this works. And it happens all the time. And it's a sophisticated way. It's a simple but sophisticated way to show your clients how to create wealth. I think it's a tactic for you to learn to master, because it's a predictable way for people to build wealth, for people to gain wealth, and for you to educate them on how to do it in a world where a lot of people don't know if their job is going to exist in a year. A lot of people don't know if they're going to be able to keep their company alive. I just recently met a woman who had to close her business down, her 60-year-old business that her dad and grandfather founded. She had to close it down. COVID-19 killed that business completely. Guess what? A person like that, if she had an apartment building or two or three, she'd have cash flow coming in, and she wouldn't be as dependent on that business or that job, because the people in the apartments in the area are still got to be there. They're still paying their rent. She would have been able to supplement that income, replace that income. I mean, how many people do you know that are not really sure what's going on? I have a friend I just talked to yesterday, and she's a vice president of a very prominent company, and she literally doesn't think she's gonna have a job after December 31st. And this lady's making a couple $100,000 a year. So like, nobody's immune, nobody's bulletproof. And the best way for you to go in and enhance your income by selling apartment buildings and making larger commissions is by educating your existing clients on why they ought to be investing. Teach them how to invest. Teach them how to invest. You make the commission for teaching them how to invest, and then teach them how to create more wealth. Invent wealth. I just showed you how just by moving the rents, doing nothing else but moving those rents to market, we created $300,000+ in value in an existing apartment building. I think it's the smartest way for you to add on to the arsenal of things that you can offer clients. You say, hey, by the way, I also help teach people how to invest in apartments, or I also help people buy income producing property. And then they'll go, oh wow, tell me more about that. And then you can go into the educational phase, and imagine how your value goes up in the mind of your client. And oh wait, I see. I'm just gonna let somebody pounced in and jumped in with a question. Somebody said that must have been a long time ago. Sellers still carry and discount buildings. Absolutely. Who asked me that? Renee? Let me tell you something. Renee, you'd be shocked at how many sellers still carry the paper. We just did a deal. I just listed a deal where the seller said, get me out of this building. I'll even carry the paper. Now, let me tell you why sellers still carry loans. If you convince a seller to carry the loan on their apartment building, then they don't have to pay the capital gains tax on the sale price. So you think the market's up, the values have been up over the last 12 years. Why would a seller want to carry the loan? It's because a seller that doesn't want to buy another property, if they sell that property, they pay the capital gains tax on it. Capital gains tax is over 28%. But if they carry the loan for that buyer, guess what? It's an installment sale and they don't have to do the 1031. How about that? So that, Renee, is why sellers still do carry loans. And that's why that guy carried 100% of the property for me. Here's the thing, I gave him his price. He wanted a price. I didn't negotiate hard on the price. I knew I could raise the rent. I got him to carry 100%. It's actually, this is the first apartment building deal I ever did on a creative level. But he did it because he was leaving the country. He wanted to get his price for the buildings, but he also didn't want to pay the capital gains tax, and he wasn't going to buy any more apartment buildings. So he goes, you know what? You're actually helping me by me carrying the loan. And so he carried the loan. And then he told me another one, he carried the loan on that too. This is real life stuff, and it's still going on right now. So there's that. Let's see, somebody else asked, is there a formula on how to calculate property price or what would be a good offer based on the income it brings? Yeah, I think we went over that. Yeah, listed price is usually higher than what the property can produce. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Who said that to me? I can't see the name, I'm sorry. But to your point, the way you evaluate whether something's priced right or it's a good price or not is that you have to look at what that property will produce in cash flow after all expenses, including debt service. So including a loan. So if there's a price, there's expenses, vacancy and expenses, and then there's the net operating income, and then you figure what the mortgage, if there's a mortgage, usually there is, what the mortgage expenses are, and then that leaves you with the net cash flow. And if a property cash flows, it just depends on what kind of cash flow or return your client wants to make. That'll determine whether it's a good deal or not. But I'll tell you this, a property's not a good deal if you buy it and it makes no money or negative money. That's never recommend that deal. And then even in a situation where the rents are low, I never want to buy a property that's negatively cash flowing because it takes time to raise rents. We've done it rapidly in some cases because there's situations, but you don't ever want to sell somebody something that's breaking even or negative cash flowing. You just don't have to. There's plenty of opportunities out there that cash flow, and you don't have to compromise so much. Now, let me take a look at some other questions here. In regards to pro forma rent, how is this number derived? Is there an industry standard that is used? Okay, so let's talk about pro forma rent. Pro forma rents are arrived at when they're arrived at by doing market studies. You do a rent survey. So what the best way to figure out what a market will bear is finding any vacancies in the area of similar units and similar buildings in the very area in question. So if I'm buying or looking at buying a building right here where I am in LA, I'm going to do a rent survey, and hopefully that the agent who has it listed has done this for you. But if you're the only agent involved, you go and survey other units, similar buildings, similar age, similar location, and what those vacancies are asking, it will tell you basically what the market rent is, right? And then you can go and plug in those numbers and say, okay, if the building across the street rented their last 4 2-bedroom apartments for $2,000 a month, and they got one vacant right now and they're asking $2,000 a month, then my vacancies, if they're very similar, should go for $2,000 a month. And that's how you plug in the pro forma rent. And so if you see something that's for sale and there's a marketing package or a sheet like I showed you, that pro forma rent, that work has been done by that agent. It's all subject to verification, but that's typically pretty, reliable because an agent doesn't want to risk their reputation by putting some garbage up there. They usually are pretty accurate. And then that'll tell you where those rents can go. So you and your client can say, hey, look, we can buy this building. Current income is $10,000 a month. The pro forma income is $14,000 a month. It's going to be our objective to stair step our way to that $14,000 a month. And then the building, we've created upside value. That's when we say there's lots of upside. You hear that term, that means there's room to grow those rents. There's room to improve the value of that building through growing those rents. All right, let's see what else do we have here. How much negotiating can happen? My buyer knows value and is shooting out significantly lower than the list price. Oh, well, look, everything's negotiable. And so what you really want to do is you want to major in motivated sellers. And, you know, a lot of sellers kind of don't know that we're sliding into this flattening out period or short recession, and they're going to continue to be greedy. But they're going to, over time, you're going to start seeing these sellers get more motivated and start lowering their expectations. What you want to focus on, in my opinion, is find those sellers who have a reason to sell. People who sell that are motivated aren't usually selling out of greed. They're selling out of need. The guy who I bought those apartment buildings from, who carried the paper, he had already scheduled to move to Guatemala for 2 years. And he was going, he was leaving, he was motivated. He wanted those properties sold right away. And I go, you want to sell them fast? How about this? I'll buy them from you fast if you'll carry the paper. And then we can close in as little as a week or less. He's like, he's all over. He said, okay, let's do it. So think about that. Think about that. I'm glad you think this is good information, Tamara. So it's really an opportunity. It's really a new layer you can add to your real estate practice. Okay, so someone wants to know, Renee wants to know, how do you determine motivation? Well, motivation is, listen, there's always a story behind the story. Okay, so your job is to be almost as much detective as you are salesperson. The best salespeople are detectives. Okay, so I just bought a property where it was revealed to me, because I asked the magic question. Anybody brings me a property, I go, well, why are they selling? Well, sometimes you can find out the real reason someone is selling. Someone brought a property to me and said, here's a good opportunity. I go, well, why are they selling? And said, well, because the siblings inherited the building. They can't get along, so they're fighting each other, and they just want out. They want to sell it. They want to liquidate it, get out. So what do? I make them a crazy aggressive offer, lower, much lower, $400,000 lower than their asking price, and I got the deal accepted because I offered them a 1-week close. So think about it. They're fighting each other. They're just going to inherit all this money and split it up. So speed was more important than price. Speed was more important than price. Why? Because they're mad at each other. They just want their money and they want to get out. So I go, listen, I will trade you speed for price. And I gave them a 1-week close. They got their money. I got my price. I win. So how do you determine motivation? It's just be a detective. Ask the other agent. I always ask the other agent, why are they selling? Many times that other agent will just tell you the information. And it's always funny because I have Marla, my assistant, right-hand man here. He's really the VP. I say assistant, that's probably offensive. But anyway, we chuckle because somebody will say to us, I'll ask the other agent, well, why are they selling? And then they'll just tell me the information. And then I hang up the phone, I look at Marla and I go, they shouldn't have told me that. And then we go in and offer them a price that's 20% below what they're asking because we now know the motivation. And so motivated sellers are your best friend. That's what you want to know. And always be in the mode of asking, why are they selling? And there's a hidden reason. Half the time there's a reason other than, oh, they just figured it's time to sell. There's a motivation somewhere. If somebody's just being greedy and asking a stupid price, don't waste your time. You don't want to buy that deal. You don't want to sell that deal to your client. You want to find motivated sellers and you want to buy the stuff that can be bought for reasons other than a high price. Okay, let's see. Someone's asking what is the best way to get the financing? Okay, well, look, there's apartment financing out there. It's available, it's real. Apartment financing right now, rates are typically in the low 4s, high 3s, low 4s. The typical down payment these days is 30 to 35%. Now that's conventional stuff. If you want a referral to a commercial or apartment mortgage person, you can email me at info@Daron Campbell and we'll give you some referrals. But there's also the other kind of financing, the creative financing, the seller carry financing. Those are truly available. They really do exist. And the more motivated the seller, the more likely they are to say yes to carrying financing. And in many cases, even if they won't carry the first, they'll lessen your down payment load by carrying a second. And many times they have an assumable loan that you might want. But in other cases, you get brand new financing for 65%, let's say, and then you can ask the seller to carry 10 or 15 more percent to lower that down payment load. And so conventional money, unconventional money, they both exist. And the funny thing is, in apartments, you know, the financing is it's definable. It's really clear because the bank can look at what the income is of the property and say, okay, well, your income, Daron, doesn't matter as much because I know that that building is generating, you know, a net $10,000 a month after mortgage. So the idea is, you know, the bank can easily say that, hey, that makes sense. Let's give them that loan. I can buy a $5 million apartment building much easier than I can buy a $5 million house. Does that make sense? Because the bank can say, oh, that's 25 units and everyone pays an average of $1,500, so they're actually helping Daron pay this mortgage. When I buy a $5 million house, they're gonna say, hey, Daron, what's your income? Can you afford this $5 million house? When I buy a $5 million apartment building, they say, hey, Daron, how much are those tenants paying every month? And can that support the mortgage? You see how it makes total sense for income producing property to be easily financeable? There you go. What is the best way for the management once the property is purchased, self or professional? Oh, great question. Well, listen, management companies exist because there's a need. But I will tell you this, management companies are not created equal. Some are good, some suck. And that's just important for you to know. And then also the property management business, Marlon's cracking up over here, but it's true. Many management companies suck. And so I want you to proceed with caution when you hand over the keys to your $5 million apartment building to a management company. They're in the business. The good part is they get paid based on a percentage of collected rent. So if their fee is 5%, they get 5% every month of the collected rent. So they have an incentive to keep your building full and collect 100% of that rent. But self-management is something you could do, and I've done that before. And let me tell you, that's not easy either. You know, if you proclaim yourself the manager and you choose to manage your own building, then you're gonna get those phone calls. I got a phone call recently. Got a phone call from the police department saying, we think there's a problem in that unit, one of your units. If you don't want us to knock down the door, you need to come over here and bring the keys. And so I had to get up at 2 in the morning and drive all the way across town and go and give the keys to the police so that they wouldn't bash in the door and bust it down. So be the property manager if you want to, but be prepared for that kind of stuff to happen. Now, there's also limits on self-management. Let's just put it like this. If you have a building that's more than 15 units, it is required that you have an on-site manager. So you can't self-manage a building that's 30 units and not live there yourself or have an on-site manager. Someone has to be the manager. And if it's not you, you don't want to live in that building, you have to have an on-site manager for more than 15 units. Does that make sense? And no, if a unit's vacant, the management company does not get paid based on that amount of rent is not included in their percentage. So I see Renee just asked that question about, does the management company get paid even if the unit's vacant? No, they get in most cases, about 5%, 4.5%, 5.5%. 5 is like the standard number of collected rent. And then it's their job to do maintenance and repairs, and then they charge you or the building for those repairs and maintenance. And in many cases, here's what you got to watch out for. In many cases, that management company puts tags a premium on top of everything they do from a maintenance and repair standpoint. I negotiate that out every time. I want you to do repairs and maintenance and labor at cost, and then I want you to charge me your 5%. Some management companies will mark up the labor. They'll mark up the price of a nail or a screw or a light bulb, and they make a margin on every little thing. Don't let that happen. Negotiate that out on your client's behalf or on your behalf when you're negotiating with a management company. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's see. Someone's asking where I am. I'm located in Los Angeles, but I sold apartment buildings from LA all the way to Atlanta. And my license is only in California, but I have negotiated deals. I'm in negotiations on a 200 unit apartment building in Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas right now. So the rules remain the same as it relates to gross rent multipliers, cap rates, adding value. It's just, different areas have different rental rates, different vacancy rates, different supply and demand equations. So before you go buy 100 units in Chicago because it's only 50,000 a unit, you better know what Chicago vacancy rates, rental rates are, because it's different from city to city, from town to town. Los Angeles and San Diego, very expensive, but very, very low vacancy. But you go somewhere in Nebraska, you might have very, very inexpensive, but they might have a 20% vacancy factor. So just be careful, be cautious. Oh man, good question. Who's asking that? Risa. What do I think of Section 8 rentals? I personally love Section 8 to death. The beautiful thing about Section 8, and then for those of you who don't know, Section 8 is subsidized rents for people with low income. The funny thing is Section 8 gets a bad name because a lot of people think Section 8, they think people with no jobs, no money, no credit, no this, no that. Not the case. Section 8 is a great thing because Section 8 pays on time, every time. So you get your rent all the time, on time. Secondarily, Section 8 tends to pay full market rent. So if I'm getting $1,400, but I can show Section 8 that the rent for their tenant really in this neighborhood should be $1,600, I can appeal to Section 8, boom, and they'll jack up that rent and pay me the $1,600. Pretty amazing. And here's the other thing that people don't know about Section 8 and subsidized housing. There's Section 8, there's HUD tenants, there's veteran tenants, there's VA tenants. All of those are subsidized rental programs. Well, what people don't know about that is just because you accept subsidized rent, Section 8 renters in your building, it doesn't mean you have to take anybody they send you. You get to say no. You get to check credit. You get to check references. You get to check, you get to go and look at where they live now, see how well they've maintained the place they live. You get to decide, hey, you know what, it's a 1-bedroom apartment. I'm not gonna let more than 2 people live there. You still get scrutiny over the subsidized housing tenant. So I had a building once where there were 4 units that were Section 8 units, and they had a total of 6 people in those 4 units. One unit had 2 people and the others had 1. And so that was low impact, low density, low, that was a pleasure. And I collected 100% of the rent per month, usually on the 1st or the day before the 1st. So long answer to your question, but I love Section 8. So anyway, so that's my take, that's my opinion. You get to decide. Okay, Renee is saying it's your first time working with a serious big dollar investor and listing. I'm hitting all the issues. That's good. I'm glad I'm helping you out, Renee. If you need more, reach out to me, Daron, info@daroncampbell.com. You go to my website, which is daroncampbell.com, and you learn a little bit more about that, but feel free to reach out. If you know what, I coach a lot of people in the commercial space and teach them how to add commercial to their business. I really think you can add $250,000 to your income in the next 12 months just by going to the existing people you have and saying, hey, would you be interested in investing in apartments? Now that you have your home, or now that you've been settled in, or now that you've been on your job or living where you live for 20 years, what if you add income producing property to your portfolio? Would you be interested if I could show you something? You'd be shocked at how many people are gonna say, absolutely, let's take a look at that. Let's see. How can you market yourselves to those motivated sellers? Well, the cool thing is you market yourself to those motivated sellers by, let's see, what's the smartest way, the easiest way? You do your current mailers, you do your current social media advertising, add investment property to your tagline, add investment property to your business card, add investment property to your website. and and incorporate it into the conversation. But those motivated sellers, there's usually, many times there are telltale signs about somebody who would be motivated. Think about it. If you see, if there's a building where you always see a for rent sign or a vacancy sign, some landlords are terrible at maintaining their buildings. Many owners are absentee owners. They're in another state, and you, like for instance, there's a property that actually I'm gonna have Marlon call on. That's not far from here. I pass by it 3 or 4 times a week, and there's always a for rent sign out there, and so it's bugging me because I think they're having trouble renting the unit. It's a funky looking building. It doesn't look like it has much parking. My guess is that seller's kind of sick of that building, and because there's always a vacancy. You know what's gonna happen? We're gonna find that owner. I'm gonna call them up and I'm gonna say, how's that building operating? And I'm gonna hear a sob story. They're gonna be like, well, yeah, it's all right. You know, I like my building, blah, blah, blah. I never sell, blah, 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 whatever. And then I'm gonna encourage them, say, listen, I notice there's vacancy there almost all the time. You know, maybe you'd like to sell that building and exchange into a more stable building. Think about that now. This building's kind of old, kind of ugly, kind of funky. I'm gonna encourage him to sell it and trade into something that's more stable, something that's cleaner, prettier, nicer. And there's a very good chance I'm gonna convince him to sell it and price it correctly. But he's got to be motivated. If it's vacant, if it's run down, if it's challenged in some way, a lot of times you can find a motivated seller. Old buildings. Let's just say old and ugly buildings, or poorly maintained buildings, or buildings where you can identify kind of a problem. Like I passed by a building about a month ago, and it just looked like there's just too many seedy looking characters hanging around that building. And there was graffiti on the building, and that building's a problem, right? I love problems. I'm gonna call that owner, and I'm gonna say, look, that building seems to be a problem. Wouldn't you rather trade your equity into something nicer, cleaner, newer, better, prettier, safer, whatever? I'm gonna get that guy to sell. And then if that building is a big enough nuisance to him or a big enough pain in his ass, he's gonna listen to me. I'm gonna sell that building. And here's the key, I'm gonna turn one transaction into 2. I'm gonna sell his building, and I'm gonna exchange him into a better building. And I'm gonna get 2 big paychecks out of the deal. Isn't that cool? That's the beautiful thing. Because when you sell an income producing property, in order to avoid paying the capital gains taxes, you have to exchange into a like kind property. That's more expensive than the one you sold. So you see how commercial real estate agents are really like get to play a different game, because when our commercial clients sell, 9 times out of 10, they buy another one. And if you're doing it right, they're buying it from you. So every apartment building I sell, I usually sell them a bigger apartment building. So my $5 million sale turns into another $6 million sale. Do the math on that commission. Okay, what do we got here? I'm looking at the questions. How do we get contact information of that seller? His email, his phone number. Well, I'm gonna talk to you about that in a second. All right, so there's something called the Kurt's Apartment Directory, which is a golden tool that gives you the names and phone numbers in many cases of the apartment owners. A very, very good way to get an owner's information is you go knock on the door of the manager and ask for it. How scientific is that? I go, when I see a building I think is an issue or problem or in a situation, I go buzz the doorbell of the manager, and I say, hey, I'm Daron Campbell. I'm a broker. I'm an agent and an investor. Could you give me the owner's phone number? And 7 times out of 10, they'll give me that guy's phone number, just hand it over to him, and then I call the owner. And so it doesn't have to be rocket science, guys. These guys are out there, and many times the manager doesn't know the difference, and they're just, here you go. And so that's how I do it a lot. Now, somebody said, I thought it wasn't like kind anymore, so apartments have to be for apartments. No. When I say the seller has to exchange in order to avoid the capital gains taxes, like for like just means income producing property. It doesn't mean apartments for apartments. It means income property, to another income property. That other income property could be a hotel or motel. It could be a commercial building. It could be an industrial building. It could be a storage building. It could be a shopping center. It could be an office building. That's all I mean. It is like for like, meaning income. You can't sell your apartment building as an income property and then buy a house and move into it. That's not like for like. That's what I mean by that. If you're a newer agent, don't have a lot of deals under your belt, past clients or contacts to go to, how would you find people that own multiple rental properties or homes? Well, what I would do if I'm a newer agent, I get the rental information. I get the rental guide, get the For Rent magazines, get we have something up here called West Side Rentals, which is all these apartment buildings with what? Vacancies. Okay, so there it is. There's the apartment building. They got a vacancy, and there's the address. And I start doing my homework on that property. So just kind of do the not so stealth thing. Things for rent are published everywhere, right? So collect that information, and it's always easier, you guys, if you focus on a territory. So wherever you do your residential listing and selling, just start working on the apartments in that area and start trying to find those sellers while you're farming your residential business. Just do the apartments as well. It's a perfect layer that can add 6 figures to your bottom line. Imagine if just between now and the end of the year, you find one apartment seller of a 20-unit building that's in your farm. It's so brilliant. Here's what you do. You find one person wants to sell a 20-unit building that's already in your farm, and convince them to let you market that property for them. And what do you know? You already farmed the area. So you already have mailing addresses or email addresses or a Facebook targeting ad for the people in your farm. So guess what you do? You market that apartment building to the owners of the homes and apartment buildings in your farm. You see, farming and specialization are the best way to do anything, as long as if you stay in your territory, you already are an expert at selling apartment buildings in that territory because you're an expert in the territory. Don't you get it? You're a residential expert already in your territory. It automatically makes you qualified to be the apartment person in your territory. That's why I tell people, specialize, have a farm, have an area of focus, an area of expertise, an area where nobody knows more than you about a particular place. That automatically qualifies you for everything that's sold in that territory. Wow, how about that? Think about it, it's so easy, it's so easy. If you got that one guy, the average, you guys are in San Diego, a 20-unit building in San Diego is gonna be valued usually between $4 million and $6 million for 20 units. And let's just say you can get one seller to go ahead and let you sell a 20-unit building, and you list that property. You don't even sell it, you list it, someone else sells it. And it's a $4 million property. And the typical commission right now on a $4 million property is probably 4%. And so you make half of that, 2%. How does another $80,000 before the end of the year feel to you? How does that sound to you? One transaction, another 80 grand. Come on, why not? Layer this on top of your business, add that to your repertoire of services you can deliver, and away you go. You just got better in the business. What do you think? Whoa, my 90 minutes are up. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. I hope that you use some of these tactics to make some more money, because it really works. It's logical. Everybody you talk to is going to understand. Everyone you speak with is going to understand what you're talking about, and they'll go, duh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, help me do that. And then in the meantime, you continue your education, you add to your income, you add to their net worth, and you're the hero. Look, I sold one family 57 apartment buildings. Why? Because they work, they make sense, so they kept coming back for more. You can do this too. I'm Daron Campbell. I'm your real estate mentor. I hope to see all of you at the top. Everybody make it a great day and get going on your apartment brokerage. Take care. Reach out. DaronCampbell.com, info@DaronCampbell. Make it a great day, everybody.